I never thought I'd be the one who would stand up to my family. Growing up, I was always the peacemaker, the one who would rather suffer in silence than cause a scene. But sometimes, life pushes you to your limits, and you discover strengths you never knew you had. My name is Emma Mitchell, and at 32, I thought I had my life figured out. I worked as a paralegal at Wilson & Associates in downtown Boston, lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Somerville, and had managed to save enough for a down payment on a small house in the suburbs. It wasn't extravagant, but it was mine, earned through years of hard work and careful planning. My relationship with my family had always been complicated. My mother passed away when I was 24, leaving me to navigate life's challenges without her guidance. My father, James, remarried 2 years later to Vivian, a woman 15 years his junior with expensive tastes and a talent for manipulation. My younger sister, Sophia, was always Dad's favourite, beautiful, charming, and irresponsible with money. Then there was my brother, Tyler, who followed whatever direction the wind was blowing, usually Vivian's. The tension between us had been building for years, but what happened last month at the Harbourview, Boston's most exclusive seafood restaurant, was the final straw that changed everything. It was my father's 60th birthday, and Vivian had insisted on celebrating at the Harbourview, known for its panoramic views of Boston Harbour and prices that made your eyes water. I had suggested a more modest venue, considering Dad's recent retirement and their supposedly tighter budget, but Vivian had dismissed my concerns with a wave of her manicured hand. "It's a milestone, Emma. Don't be so cheap," she had said, her voice dripping with that familiar condescension that made my skin crawl. The evening started pleasantly enough. The restaurant was everything you'd expect for 200 plus per person: white tablecloths, crystal glasses that caught the light from the setting sun, and servers who appeared and disappeared like ghosts, always there when you needed them, but never hovering. I arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in my best navy cocktail dress, the one I saved for client meetings and special occasions. The hostess led me to our table by the window, where the Boston skyline twinkled against the darkening sky. "Your party hasn't arrived yet," she informed me with a professional smile. "Would you like to wait at the bar?" "No, thank you. I'll wait here," I replied, settling into my chair and taking in the view. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Running late. Order appetizers. Get me a dirty martini." I sighed and ordered a club soda for myself and Sophia's martini. By the time my father, Vivian, Sophia, and Tyler finally arrived, 45 minutes late, I had already fielded 3 concerned check-ins from our server. "Sorry we're late, darling," my father said, kissing my cheek. He looked good for 60, his silver hair neatly trimmed, though I noticed the new lines around his eyes. Traffic was terrible. Vivian didn't bother with an explanation or an apology as she took her seat, immediately signalling for the wine list. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her blonde hair styled in an elaborate updo that must have taken hours. "Emma, you look nice," she said, her eyes quickly scanning my outfit before moving on to more important matters, like the wine selection. Sophia slid into the seat beside me, already reaching for the martini I'd ordered. At 28, my sister was still trading on her good looks and charm, moving from one dead-end job to another while somehow maintaining a wardrobe that belonged on a celebrity. "Thanks for the drink, sis," she said, taking a large sip. God, I needed that. The most insane thing happened at work today. Tyler, 30, dressed in a suit that looked expensive but ill-fitting, gave me a distracted nod as he immediately buried himself in his phone. The waiter appeared, and Vivian took charge of ordering. "We'll start with the seafood tower, the grand, not the petite, and the black truffle risotto to share." I glanced at the menu and winced internally. The grand seafood tower was $195. "And bottles of the Krug Grand Cuvée champagne for the table," she added, pointing to a champagne that cost $375 per bottle. My stomach knotted. I had budgeted $200 for tonight, which was already stretching my finances thin that month. "Perhaps we could go with something a bit more moderate," I suggested quietly. "The Veuve Clicquot is also excellent." Vivian's smile tightened. "It's your father's 60th birthday, Emma. Don't be stingy." My father patted my hand. It's fine. Sweetheart, let's celebrate. I bit my tongue and nodded, hoping this wouldn't be as expensive as I feared. That hope was quickly dashed as Vivian continued ordering Alaskan king crab legs, butter-poached lobster, Japanese A5 Wagyu beef, and every expensive side dish on the menu. Sophia chimed in, "And I want the truffle mac and cheese. Oh, and can we get another round of cocktails? I'll have the top-shelf margarita this time." Tyler finally looked up from his phone. "Get me the whiskey flight, the premium one." By the time the main courses arrived, we had already gone through 2 bottles of champagne, and Vivian had ordered a 225 bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon to pair with the steaks. I nursed my single glass of champagne, anxiety mounting as I mentally calculated the growing bill. The conversation revolved around Sophia's latest drama with her boyfriend, Tyler's new business idea that he needed just a small investment to get off the ground, and Vivian's complaints about the neighbours in their gated community. "Emma, you're quiet tonight," my father observed during a lull in the conversation. "How's work?" Before I could answer, Vivian interjected, "James, did you tell the kids about our plans for the summer house in Cape Cod?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "Not yet, Viv. I thought we'd wait until after dinner." "What summer house?" I asked, surprised. My father had always talked about wanting a place on the Cape, but with his retirement, I thought such dreams had been put on hold. Vivian smiled triumphantly. "We put a deposit down last week. It's the most charming 4-bedroom right near the water in Chatham. We close next month." I nearly choked on my water. "But I thought, with retirement, weren't you downsizing?" My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "Well, we've been careful with our planning." Careful with their planning? The last time we had spoken about finances, he had mentioned concerns about having enough for retirement. Something didn't add up. Sophia clapped her hands excitedly. "That's amazing! Summer parties on the Cape. I can't wait." Tyler nodded appreciatively. "Smart investment, Dad." The dessert menus arrived, and of course, everyone ordered the most expensive options, the chocolate soufflé with gold leaf, creme brulee with Madagascar vanilla, and a cheese plate featuring imports from small European farms. Plus, dessert wines and specialty coffees all around. As the evening wound down, my father excused himself to use the restroom. Vivian checked her watch and suddenly stood up. "This has been lovely. But we have another engagement," she announced, gathering her designer clutch. "James made reservations for after-dinner drinks with the Hendersons. They're potential investors in Tyler's business." Sophia drained her 4th cocktail and stood as well. "Yeah, I should get going too. My boyfriend's waiting for me." Tyler, who had barely spoken except to order more drinks, was already halfway to the door, typing on his phone. "Wait," I said, confused. "What about the bill?" Vivian gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Be a dear and take care of it, would you? Consider it your gift to your father. He's done so much for all of us. After all..." Before I could protest, she was striding toward the exit, Sophia in tow. My father returned, looking puzzled to see them gone. "They had to run," I explained, a knot forming in my stomach. "Vivian said something about drinks with the Hendersons." My father frowned. "The Hendersons? We don't have plans with them tonight." The waiter appeared with the leather folder containing the bill, placing it discreetly on the table. My father reached for his wallet, then patted his pockets with a look of confusion. "That's strange," he said. "I seem to have forgotten my wallet. Vivian must have it in her purse." I reached for the bill before he could see it, but not before catching the total. 12,347.82. The blood drained from my face. That was more than my monthly mortgage payment on the house I was saving for. "I can cover it, Dad," I heard myself say, even as panic rose in my chest. "It's your birthday." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you, sweetheart. I'll pay you back tomorrow." But as he hugged me goodbye, I knew he wouldn't. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened, though never on this scale. There had been countless dinners where my card was somehow the only one that worked, shopping trips where I'd ended up buying gifts for everyone because they'd forgotten their wallets, and loans that were never repaid. I sat alone at the table after my father left, staring at the bill as the restaurant emptied around me. My hands trembled as I placed my credit card in the leather folder. This would wipe out a significant portion of my house down payment savings. The house I had been working 60-hour weeks for. The house that represented my independence. As I waited for the server to return with my card, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The balance in my savings account, $23,458.99, represented 3 years of overtime, packed lunches, and saying no to vacations and new clothes. And now, nearly 10% of it would be gone in one night. The server returned with the receipt for me to sign. As I calculated the tip, another $470, something shifted inside me. A lifetime of being the responsible one, the peacemaker, the pushover, crystallized into a moment of clarity. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect. Or rather, the complete lack of it. I signed the receipt, adding a generous tip for the server who had put up with my family all evening. Then I took a photo of the itemized bill with my phone. The ride home in my 7-year-old Honda was silent. No radio, no phone calls, just the sound of my thoughts racing. By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, a plan was forming. My cat, Milo, greeted me with an indignant meow for being left alone so long. I kicked off my heels, fed him, and then sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop. First, I created a detailed spreadsheet of every loan my family had taken from me over the past 5 years. Dinners, gifts, cash advances, and the countless times I'd picked up the tab. The total came to just over $17,000, not including tonight's dinner. Then I drafted an email with the spreadsheet attached. I addressed it to my father, Vivian, Sophia, and Tyler. The subject line read, "Family Financial Statement, Urgent." The body of the email was simple. "Dear family, attached is a comprehensive record of the money I have loaned to each of you over the past 5 years, including tonight's dinner at the Harbour View, $12,347.82, which I have added to the balance. I have been happy to help when needed, but I now find myself in need of repayment. As you know, I am saving for a house, and these funds represent a significant portion of my down payment. I expect repayment in full within 30 days. I am open to reasonable payment plans if necessary. With love, Emma." I attached the photo of tonight's receipt and pressed send before I could second-guess myself. Then I turned off my phone, took a hot shower and went to bed, falling into an exhausted but strangely peaceful sleep. The next morning, I woke to my phone buzzing incessantly. There were missed calls from everyone in my family, voicemails that ranged from incredulous to furious, and a group text thread that had exploded overnight. Vivian: "Is this some kind of joke, after everything we've done for you?" Sophia: "OMG, Emma, I can't believe you're being so petty about dinner. It was Dad's birthday." Tyler: "Not cool, sis. Really not cool." My father: "Emma, please call me. We need to discuss this." I made myself a cup of coffee and calmly read through each message without responding. Then I opened my email to find multiple replies. Vivian's was the first. "Emma, I find this email highly inappropriate and frankly ungrateful. Your father has supported you your entire life, paying for your education and helping you establish your career. One dinner is hardly repayment for all he's done. I suggest you reconsider this approach if you want to maintain a relationship with this family. Vivian." Sophia's email was shorter. "Are you serious right now? You make more money than me anyway. It's not my fault you choose to live like a hermit and save every penny. Family helps family. Period." Tyler hadn't bothered to reply by email, but had sent a text. "Whatever, Emma. Good luck getting blood from a stone. I'm broke." My father's email was the one that hurt the most. "Emma, I'm disappointed that you've chosen to turn a lovely family celebration into an accounting exercise. While I understand your frustration, I think you're being unreasonable. The house on the Cape is an investment for the whole family to enjoy, including you. As for these other loans, I don't recall agreeing to repay casual expenses that you offered to cover at the time. Let's talk about this in person. Come to Sunday dinner this weekend and we can sort this out as a family. Love, Dad. I read each response carefully, noting the manipulation, gaslighting, and guilt-tripping tactics that I had normalized my entire life. The house, for the whole family to enjoy, was particularly rich, considering I hadn't even been consulted about it. Instead of responding immediately, I got dressed and drove to my office. It was Saturday, but I needed the resources there. As a paralegal at a law firm specializing in estate planning and family law, I had access to certain tools and knowledge. I spent the morning pulling together documentation, bank statements showing transfers to my family members, text messages requesting loans, and emails promising repayment. I also drafted a formal demand letter, something I'd done countless times for our clients. It wasn't legally binding, but it established a paper trail and demonstrated my seriousness. Before leaving the office, I consulted briefly with Sarah Jenkins, an attorney I worked closely with and considered a friend. Legally, you have a case for some of this, especially where there's written evidence of a loan agreement, she advised after reviewing my documents. But Emma, are you sure you want to go this route with your family? I thought about her question carefully. I'm not planning to sue them if that's what you're asking. But I need to establish boundaries, and in my family nothing says boundary like legal letterhead. Sarah nodded understanding. Just be prepared for the fallout. Family financial disputes get ugly fast. I know, I replied, but I think we're already there. I spent the rest of the weekend ignoring the increasingly angry messages from my family and preparing for the confrontation I knew was coming. On Sunday morning, instead of going to my father's house for dinner as requested, I sent a group email. I will not be attending dinner today. Attached is a formal request for repayment of funds loaned. I am willing to discuss reasonable payment plans. This is not about one dinner. This is about a pattern of behaviour that I can no longer financially or emotionally sustain. Emma. I attached the formal demand letter, which broke down each loan by date, amount and recipient, along with any documentary evidence I had. The response was nuclear. My phone rang almost immediately. It was my father. Emma, what the hell is this? He demanded when I answered. I could hear Vivian in the background, her voice shrill with indignation. It's exactly what it looks like, Dad, I replied, keeping my voice steady. A request for repayment of money that I loaned to you and other family members. Loaned? You offered to pay for those things. There was never any discussion of repayment. That's not true. And you know it, I countered. I have texts from you promising to pay me back for at least 6 of these instances. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. I'm your father. Families help each other. Yes, they do, I agreed. But help goes both ways. Right now, I need help with my down payment, and I'm asking you to repay what you've borrowed. We don't have that kind of money just lying around. Emma, we just put a deposit on the Cape House. And there it was. The admission that their financial priorities didn't include honouring their debts to me. I understand, Dad. That's why I'm willing to accept a payment plan. But I need some acknowledgement that these debts exist and a commitment to repay them. I can't believe you're doing this over one dinner, he said, his voice now more sad than angry. It's not about one dinner, I repeated. It's about respect. And honestly, it's about the Cape House. How can you afford a vacation home when you can't afford to repay your daughter? There was a long pause, then the sound of the phone being taken from him. Listen here, Vivian's voice cut through, sharp as a knife. You need to drop this now. Your father is upset and it's all your fault. If you persist with this extortion, you can forget about being part of this family. I took a deep breath. It's not extortion to ask for repayment of loans. Vivian. And if being part of the family means being an ATM with no expectation of respect or reciprocity, then maybe I need to reconsider my membership. I could almost hear her jaw drop. In all the years since she had married my father, I had never spoken to her this way. Well, she finally sputtered. I guess we know where we stand now. Yes, I agreed. We do. She hung up on me. The next week was difficult. My siblings alternated between angry texts, and attempts to make me feel guilty. My father sent a long email about how hurt he was that I would turn on the family this way. Vivian apparently told extended family members that I was having mental health issues and should be approached with caution. But I stood firm. I didn't respond to the emotional manipulation. Instead, I sent calm, factual replies reiterating my request for repayment. And then, something unexpected happened. 10 days after the dinner fiasco, I received an email from my father, sent from his personal account rather than the family one that Vivian had access to. "Emma, can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Just you and me. There are things we need to discuss. Dad." We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe halfway between our homes. When I arrived, my father was already there, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen him. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat down across from him. "Of course," I replied, unsure what to expect. He took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology. Several, actually." I stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. "After your mother died, I lost my way a bit. Vivian was exciting and different, and she made me feel young again, but I've allowed her to change the dynamics of our family in ways that aren't healthy." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and placed it on the table between us. "This is a check for $10,000. It's not the full amount, but it's what I can manage right now. I've set up an automatic transfer from my personal account to yours for $500 a month until the rest is paid off." I stared at the envelope, stunned. "Dad, Please let me finish," he said, holding up a hand. "The Cape House. It was Vivian's idea, not mine. She used money from my retirement account for the deposit. Money I'd been saving for years, including before I met her." "Oh, Dad," I whispered, my heart sinking. "I've consulted with a financial advisor, and I'm going to back out of the purchase. The deposit is lost, but it's better than being house poor in retirement." He looked down at his coffee cup. "I should have done this years ago, but your email, it forced me to look at the bigger picture, at what's been happening with our family dynamics." "What about Vivian?" I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be good. "She's furious," he admitted. "Says I'm choosing you over her. But that's not it at all. I'm choosing financial responsibility over reckless spending. I'm choosing healthy family relationships over toxic ones." "Are you saying—" "I don't know what's going to happen with my marriage," he said quietly. "But I do know that I want to repair my relationship with you. I've been a poor excuse for a father these past few years, and I'm sorry." Tears welled in my eyes. "I never wanted to cause problems, Dad. I just couldn't keep enabling the behaviour." "You didn't cause the problems, Emma. You just had the courage to point them out." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Your mother would have been proud of you for standing up for yourself. She always said you were the strongest of all of us, even if you didn't know it yet." We talked for hours that day, really talked, in a way we hadn't since before my mother died. About his marriage, my career goals, the house I was saving for. About Sophia's growing dependency on alcohol and Tyler's string of failed get-rich-quick schemes. About how we had all been enabling each other's worst instincts rather than supporting each other's best ones. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was necessary. And when we finally parted, I felt like I had my father back for the first time in years. The fallout with the rest of the family wasn't pretty. Vivian refused to speak to me and did everything she could to turn my father against me again. Sophia oscillated between fury and begrudging respect, eventually admitting that she too had felt manipulated by Vivian, but hadn't had the courage to stand up to her. Tyler, surprisingly, was the first of my siblings to repay his portion of the debt, albeit in small instalments from his new job, his first steady employment in years. 3 months after that fateful dinner at the Harbour View, I put in an offer on a small 2-bedroom house in a quiet neighbourhood. My father came with me to the closing, beaming with pride as I signed the papers. "I have something for you," he said afterward, handing me a small gift bag. Inside was a framed photo of my mother, standing in front of our family home when I was just a child, her arms open wide as if welcoming us inside. "She always believed in making a house a home," my father said, his voice thick with emotion. "She would have loved to see you do the same." As for Vivian, she and my father separated 2 months after our coffee shop conversation. The divorce proceedings are ongoing, complicated by her spending habits and my father's intermingled finances. It's been hard on him, but he seems lighter somehow, more like the father I remember from before my mother's death. Sophia has started attending AA meetings, finally acknowledging that her drinking had spiraled out of control. Tyler is taking business classes at the community college, determined to build something legitimate, rather than chasing the next big score. And me? I'm learning that standing up for yourself doesn't mean losing your family. It means establishing the conditions under which healthy family relationships can thrive. 6 months after moving into my new home, I received an unexpected visitor. It was a rainy Tuesday evening, and I was curled up on my couch with Milo and a legal brief when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Vivian standing on my porch, looking nothing like the polished, intimidating woman I remembered. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup, and she wore jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer outfits. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. Surprised and wary, I stepped aside to let her in. She stood awkwardly in my living room, taking in the modest but comfortable furnishings, the photos of family, notably excluding her, on the walls. "I like what you've done with the place," she said finally. "It's homey." Coming from Vivian, who had always equated worth with luxury, this was unexpected. "Thank you," I replied cautiously. "Would you like some tea?" She nodded, and I used the few minutes in the kitchen to gather my thoughts. When I returned with 2 mugs, she was looking at a photo of my mother that I kept on the mantel. "She was beautiful," Vivian said quietly. "Your father loved her very much." "Yes, he did," I agreed, handing her a mug. "Why are you here, Vivian?" She took a sip of tea before answering. "I owe you an apology, Emma." Of all the things I had expected her to say, that wasn't on the list. "The divorce will be final next month," she continued. "Your father and I have reached a settlement. It's not what I had hoped for, but it's fair. More than fair, considering my behaviour." "I'm sorry things didn't work out," I said, surprised to find that I meant it. Despite everything, I had never wished unhappiness on her. "Don't be," she replied with a small, sad smile. "It was never going to work, not really. I was trying to fill a hole in my life with things, expensive things, a successful husband, status. It didn't work." She set down her mug and looked me directly in the eyes. "That night at the Harbour View, I was cruel to you, not just then, but for years. I was jealous of your relationship with your father, of the way he looked at you with such pride. I wanted that for myself, and instead of earning it, I tried to push you away from him." I sat in stunned silence as she continued. "I'm not asking for forgiveness or for us to be friends, but I wanted you to know that you were right to stand up to me, to all of us. It forced your father to see what I had become, what I had turned your family into, and it forced me to see it too." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "This is my portion of what we owe you. It's all there, with interest." I took the envelope, feeling the weight of the closure it represented more than the money inside. "What will you do now?" I asked. "Start over," she said simply. "I'm moving to Chicago next month. My sister lives there. I've got a job lined up at an art gallery. Nothing fancy, just an assistant position, but it's something I actually know about. I studied art history before I decided that marrying well was a better career plan." We talked for another hour. Not as friends exactly, but as 2 women finding unexpected common ground in the aftermath of conflict. When she left, we didn't hug or make promises to keep in touch, but there was a peace between us that I never thought possible. The following Sunday, I hosted another dinner party. This time I invited Sarah from work and her husband, along with my father, Sophia, and Tyler. As we gathered around my dining table, a vintage find I had restored myself, I couldn't help but reflect on how different this meal was from that night at the Harbour View. The food was simple but delicious. A roast chicken with herbs from my small garden, vegetables from the farmer's market, and a homemade apple pie for dessert. The total cost was probably less than the tip I'd left at the Harbour View, but the conversation and laughter that filled my home were worth far more. Sophia, now 3 months sober, had brought sparkling water instead of wine, and spoke excitedly about the photography class she had started taking. I never realised I had an eye for composition, she explained, showing us some surprisingly good photos on her phone. My sponsor says finding healthy passions is important for recovery. Tyler had brought his new girlfriend May, a sensible accountant who clearly had a steadying influence on him. She's helping me build a real business plan, he told me proudly as they prepared to leave. No get-rich-quick schemes, just solid fundamentals. My father was the last to leave. As I walked him to his car, he put his arm around my shoulders like he used to when I was young. "Your mother would be so proud of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just for the house or standing up for yourself, but for helping put our family back together. You're the heart of this family, Emma. You always have been." I thought about his words long after he'd gone, sitting on my front porch swing and looking up at the stars. My mother had always told me that true strength wasn't about never falling, but about how you got back up. Our family had fallen, hard, but we were finding our way back to solid ground, one step at a time. The next day at work, I was surprised when Robert Wilson, the founding partner of our firm, called me into his office. "Emma," he said, gesturing for me to sit down, "Sarah has brought something to my attention that I'd like to discuss with you." My stomach dropped. Had I made a mistake on a case? Was I being let go? "Your handling of your own family's financial dispute shows exactly the kind of analytical thinking and backbone we value in our associates," he continued, completely catching me off guard. "Sarah tells me you've been taking night classes to finish your law degree." I nodded, surprised that Sarah had mentioned it. I had been slowly working toward my JD for the past 2 years, taking classes when I could afford them. "The firm would like to sponsor the remainder of your education," Robert said, "with a guarantee of an associate position upon passing the bar, of course." I sat in stunned silence, hardly able to believe what I was hearing. Thank you," I finally managed. "That's incredibly generous." "It's not generosity, it's investment," he corrected with a smile. "We recognize talent when we see it. And sometimes the best legal minds are forged through personal experience with justice. Last week, I hosted my first dinner party in my new home. My father, Sophia, and Tyler all came. We cooked together, laughed together, and each contributed to the meal, financially and otherwise. It wasn't perfect, and we're still navigating our new boundaries, but it was real in a way our family hadn't been for a long time. As for the Harbour View, I haven't been back. But I did frame the receipt from that night and hung it in my home office. It's a reminder that sometimes the most expensive lessons are the most valuable, and that true wealth isn't measured in dollars but in self-respect. The dinner that was meant to break me financially ended up being the catalyst for rebuilding my family on a foundation of mutual respect and responsibility. And that, as they say, is priceless. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.